I never thought I'd be one of those people posting a long story on Reddit. But here we are. If you've ever been told you were too quiet, too passive, or too weak during a breakup, this might be for you. My ex-husband, Ethan, and I were married for 16 years. 16. That's longer than most people keep their phones, careers, or gym memberships. We met when I was 18 and he was 25. I was fresh out of high school, working as an admin assistant at a small accounting firm in Illinois. Ethan already talked like a CEO, big words, big dreams, big confidence. I thought it was impressive. In hindsight, it was a warning label. We got married fast. I was 20. Our daughter, Emma, was born a year later. Life moved quickly, but I didn't mind. I've always been practical. While Ethan chased ideas, I chased stability. When Ethan started his construction and property development company, I kept my job part-time. I handled our household finances, built my retirement account, and saved quietly. My mom drilled one rule into my head growing up. A few years later, Ethan asked me to quit and help him full-time. I need someone I can trust, he said. So I did. For over a decade, I ran the back end of his entire business, payroll, scheduling, vendor, contracts, permits, accounting, client emails. If it involved details or responsibility, it landed on my plate. I did all of it unpaid because I was the wife, while raising our daughter and keeping our home running. Publicly, Ethan was the success story. Privately, I was the infrastructure. And slowly, without realizing it, I became invisible. At events, I was introduced as my wife, never as the person keeping the company alive. Ethan accepted praise like it was oxygen. He stopped asking for my opinion, started criticizing me instead, my clothes, my energy, my lack of ambition. I didn't argue. I was too busy holding everything together. Then, about 4 years before the divorce, I found something I wasn't meant to see. It was late. Ethan was working. I was reconciling business accounts, something I'd done 1,000 times before. That's when I noticed a transfer I didn't recognize. Then another. Then a loan statement that didn't match my records. So I kept digging. What I found that night didn't make me cry. It made me very, very quiet. The house had 3 mortgages. Not 1. Not 2. 3. The business was drowning in debt. Lines of credit maxed out. Back taxes. Vendor balances overdue. Equipment loans stacked on top of each other. Our lifestyle, the cars, the trips. The image was built entirely on borrowed money. And the worst part, large chunks of that money didn't go into the business at all. They vanished. I didn't confront Ethan. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I did something else instead. I started preparing. Everyone says they'd want to know the truth, but knowing it early gave me something far more valuable than anger. It gave me time, and time, as I learned, is the most dangerous weapon of all. Once I knew the truth, everything changed, but on the surface, nothing did. That was the key. I didn't confront Ethan. I didn't hint. I didn't ask questions that would make him suspicious. I acted exactly the same as I always had. Supportive, tired, dependable. The woman who would never leave. The woman who didn't ask hard questions. Inside, I was doing math. A lot of it. I printed statements late at night. I followed money trails. I compared loan dates to the months. Ethan claimed the business was thriving. The picture that formed was ugly. Crypto losses, sports betting, expensive trips I'd never been invited on, a downtown apartment lease tied to a credit card I'd never seen. My husband wasn't unlucky, and reckless men don't change. They just eventually run out of room. I realized something terrifying and comforting at the same time. If I confronted him, I'd lose control. Ethan was charming when cornered. He could explain anything away, make you doubt your own memory, your own math. Worse, if he knew I understood the situation, he might try to pull me down with him, or reach for the one thing I still had that was mine, because I did still have something of my own. Before Ethan, before the business, before the chaos, I had worked. I'd built a modest retirement account at the accounting firm. I'd never touched it after quitting. It had quietly grown over the years. And 2 years earlier, my aunt had passed away and left me a sizable inheritance. Her will was clear. The money was for me alone. I never mixed it with joint funds. Total, just over $500,000. Not flashy, not billionaire money, but enough to survive. enough to protect my daughter, enough to walk away if I did it right. So I got professional help, quietly. A financial advisor helped me set up a trust for Emma, irrevocable, locked. My name wasn't listed as beneficiary. Ethan's definitely wasn't. College, housing, emergency, funds, untouchable. Then I documented everything. Every mortgage, every signature, every debt tied to Ethan's name. I made copies, digital and physical, stored them in places Ethan would never think to look. And then I waited. That was the hardest part. I smiled at dinners. I attended events. I nodded while Ethan bragged. I listened to him talk about growth and success while knowing the numbers were fake. But I also watched him change. He stayed out later, became crueler at home, less patient with our daughter, more obsessed with appearances, more careless with money. Men like Ethan don't leave because they're unhappy. They leave because they think they've won. And sure enough, one Tuesday evening, he came home and said the words I'd been expecting for years. I want a divorce. He didn't cry, didn't apologize. He told me he wanted the house, the business, the cars, everything. I could keep Emma. In that moment, I finally understood something clearly. He didn't want freedom. He wanted ownership. And he had no idea what he was really asking for. The divorce announcement spread fast. Friends, family, even people I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions about what I should do. Every conversation sounded the same. Get a shark lawyer. Take him for everything. You build that business too. They were right, which is exactly why I did the opposite. Ethan moved quickly, too quickly. Within days, he'd already spoken to a lawyer and started talking, like the outcome was guaranteed. He moved into the master bedroom and treated the house like it already belonged to him. Then he brought her around. A woman from his company, younger, loud confidence, always smiling like she'd just won something. She walked through my kitchen like it was a showroom, commenting on paint colors and furniture as if I wasn't standing there. Ethan didn't stop her. He watched me instead, measuring how small I'd become. Money access disappeared next. First my personal credit card for budgeting reasons, then the joint account. He suggested I should probably start looking for a place of my own. In my own house. His mother came to help me pack. She decided what I could take and what I couldn't. Jewelry, furniture, anything valuable was suddenly marital property. My clothes went into trash bags. Trash bags. That's when I understood something important. Everyone had already decided I'd lost. Even worse, my daughter was watching. Ethan started working on her gently, carefully, telling her mommy was being difficult, that mommy didn't understand how money worked, that daddy was just trying to keep things peaceful. She became quieter around me, distant, confused. That hurt more than anything he did. I hired a lawyer, Marissa, smart, direct, and absolutely convinced I'd been destroyed emotionally. She laid out what I could fight for. Half the house, half the business, spousal support. I told her no. I watched her process that in real time. The pause, the careful tone, the concern. She thought I was broken. That's when I knew the plan would work. I moved into a small apartment with my daughter. 2 bedrooms, old carpet, boxes stacked everywhere. It looked like failure. Ethan, meanwhile, looked like success. He posted online. New watch, new dinners, new life. People congratulated him for moving on. His mother bragged about how I didn't even fight, and I played my role perfectly. At mediation, I spoke softly, asked for very little, said I was tired, that I just wanted peace, that Ethan deserved the business because it was his dream. He couldn't believe his luck. Every time I minimized myself, he relaxed more. He signed faster, stopped asking questions, stopped listening to his lawyer. What he didn't know was that every asset he demanded came with something else attached. Something heavy, something expensive, something permanent. And when he finally realized it, it would be far too late. By the time we reached a final hearing, Ethan was glowing. That's the only word for it. He walked into court like a man collecting a reward. Expensive suit, new watch, confidence that comes from believing you've already won. His girlfriend waited outside, scrolling on her phone, bored but satisfied. His mother sat behind him, smiling like justice was finally being served. I showed up looking exactly how everyone expected me to look. Tired, small, defeated. The judge reviewed the agreement carefully. She paused when she got to my section where I waived my claim to the house, the business, the vehicles. She looked at me over her glasses. Mrs. Mitchell, you understand you're giving up significant marital property? Yes, Your Honor, I said quietly. And you're doing this voluntarily? Yes. The judge hesitated, just for a second. I could see her weighing whether to intervene. But I was represented. I was calm. I was clear. So she allowed it. Papers were passed around. Page after page of legal language. Ethan signed without reading. He was in a hurry. He wanted to get back to his new life. I signed slowly. Very slowly. What Ethan didn't understand, what he never bothered to understand, was the addendum, the liability disclosure. Every asset listed came with attached obligations, mortgages, business loans, tax liabilities, lease agreements, everything transferred solely to him. It was legal, clear, devastating. His lawyer caught it. I saw the moment it happened. The color drained from his face as he flipped pages back and forth, whispering urgently to Ethan. Ethan waved him off until the judge spoke. She explained it plainly. Assets and liabilities go together. You take one, you take the other. Ethan stood up. This isn't right, he said. I didn't know about all this debt. The courtroom went silent. The judge looked unimpressed. Mr. Mitchell, she said, are you telling the court you don't know the financial condition of the business you own? His lawyer cleared his throat and presented a signed waiver, proof that Ethan had refused a financial audit against legal advice. The judge didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The agreement stands. That was it. Just like that. The thing Ethan had demanded, the house, the business. The image collapsed under its own weight. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. As I stood to leave, I looked at him once and said quietly, you asked for everything. I gave it to you. And I walked out. Behind me, his world was unraveling. Ahead of me was something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. The fallout was fast. Faster than I expected, honestly. Within weeks, Ethan's girlfriend was gone. She moved out while he was at work, took what she could carry, and left a note that said, this isn't what I signed up for. I heard she blocked his number before the moving truck even left the driveway. The house didn't sell. It couldn't. When you owe more than something is worth, buyers don't line up, banks do. Missed payments turned into warnings. Warnings turned into threats. The business followed. Vendors filed claims. Credit lines froze. Equipment got repossessed. The empire everyone admired turned out to be a cardboard set. And once the lights went out, there was nothing holding it up. Ethan filed for bankruptcy less than 4 months later. His mother blamed me, of course. Told anyone who would listen that I'd tricked him, that I'd hidden the debt. The paperwork told a different story. His signatures were everywhere. No one wanted to lend him money after that. Meanwhile, my life looked smaller but felt lighter. My daughter and I settled into our apartment. I painted the kitchen a soft green, bought second-hand furniture, cooked dinners without anxiety humming in my chest. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. The trust for my daughter stayed untouched, safe, secure, hers. One evening, she asked me, you knew this would happen, didn't you? I didn't lie. I knew he'd ask for everything, I said. And I knew what everything actually was. She hugged me then, really hugged me. Not because she needed comfort, but because she understood. A few months later, Ethan showed up at my door. He looked older, smaller. The confidence was gone. No watch, no smile. I didn't know it was this bad, he said. I made mistakes. He asked if we could talk, if maybe we could work something out. I looked at the man who once threw me away like an inconvenience, and I felt nothing. You already made your choices, I said. Then I closed the door. That night, I sat alone in my living room and realized something important. I hadn't taken revenge. I'd taken responsibility for myself, for my daughter, for the future I'd almost lost while holding someone else together. He took everything in the divorce, and for the first time in my life, I had everything that mattered.